Hello, everyone. It's Phil here again from Pioneer Podiatry. This is a presentation that I think would be really helpful either for new graduates who are looking at designing or planning the first 2 years of their professional career, or for business owners that are looking at designing a new graduate program. It's a presentation I did for the APOD A maybe 3 years ago and develop some resources as well, not just for businesses, but also that can be used by new graduate podiatrists or early career podiatrists to design their CPD, particularly in the first couple of years of their degree. So, not their degree, their profession once you've graduated. Um, so yeah, hopefully this is interesting. If it is, let me know. It's a model that we've developed for structuring the mentoring necessary for new graduates to help manage that transition from university to private practice, particularly. But this would work in a public setting or in any other setting as well. So the question that we have to answer is, who is the expert at new graduate mentorship? Now, it's you. If you're a business owner or if you're a podiatrist, you are the expert at it. It's your role. It's actually your job to provide that graduate mentoring. Um, Things like Bridge the Gap and other online forums are excellent ways. I just wish there was stuff like this around when I graduated 20 years ago. The ability to share information and to mentor each other is amazing. And that happens in an ad hoc way online in groups, in other non-structured mentorship sort of context, which is awesome. But I just want you to think of yourself as the the person who is best placed to mentor other podiatrists. So it's actually your responsibility. There's a bit of there's a lot of comment on new graduates coming out of university not ready to ready for the profession, and that's always been true. To be honest, I remember 20 years ago, a lot of us were we had a lot of information in our heads, but we weren't really quite ready. So that early career mentoring is really important, and it's your job if you are a podiatrist. There's a problem in our profession, but truthfully, there's a problem in all professions, all healthcare professions. And the problem is the attrition rate. So there's a dropout that happens quite early. I was talking to some physios about it, and they've got similar rates to us. Actually, ours are slightly worse, but it's a similar issue. People burn out because of the need that this profession has to show so much care and interest in people. And without the right support, it's a real struggle, right? The emotional exhaustion, depersonalization is just a concerning kind of psychological experience. Um, and not a great lot of personal accomplishment can come sometimes if you feel like you're not having that mentoring and the support that's needed. But at the end of the day, you end up with burnout. And the attrition rate's about 50% at 5 years in our profession. My anecdotal experience, and even from my own colleagues from the year that I graduated, and also the other pods in our team, will say the same thing about a lot of their colleagues drop out pretty early in their career. So the solution, look, this is a bit of a comment from some of my older business owning friends. They complain about millennials. Now you got Gen, whatever we are, Z, Alpha, whatever. I can't keep track of it all. But there's always a bit of a comment on, oh, young people these days, they don't want to work hard. They don't want to do this. They don't want to do that. They've got expectations that, aren't realistic. And look, I'm kind of on the cusp of that attitude. I don't have that attitude, but I'm on the cusp of the age of people that have had that attitude. There's a transition in people's expectations in the workforce. So if you expect, the gone are the days where you hire someone, treat them poorly, don't give them much support, and just expect them to catch up or just to slowly absorb information as they career. We really, really need to consider what graduating, particularly younger podiatrists graduating soon after high school are wanting. There's a lot of mature grads that have maybe different expectations, but look, you can't change what you can't change. You just got to respond to it. So, someone who is older than 40 is a millennial. Well, millennials now with that entitlement alleged mentality are now hitting 40. So that includes me a couple of years ago. So, and they make up, you know, 6 out of 10 of our uh, profession is of that age or younger. So anyway, the solution to this is understanding what new graduates generally want. And this is quite well understood by those who ask the right questions. What do new graduates want? And they want four things specifically. They want mentorship. So they want someone to help them and to guide them through that transition from university into practice. They're quite scared about not having any support. So yeah, and I get that. Most of us were like that when we finished university. They generally want diverse caseloads. Now, not everyone. Some people are happy with one stream or another, but to develop and explore their potential and the all the elements of what our profession can do, they don't want to just be cutting toenails for 5 years until they can get some musculoskeletal cases. They want to be seeing that stuff early. So that's keep that in mind. And generally, there's a sense of wanting to belong in a team and be part of something. So some people are happy to be, solo, self, directed, but most people want to come and be part of something when they come to work. So that's part of being valued. Yeah, that's a really high value I find. And our young team is quite young, so that's really something I know. They want to be part of it. They love having fun and being in amongst it and feel like they're all working together on something meaningful. And feedback. So that's always something that people want. And it doesn't mean they always want positive feedback. I find with the new graduates, they want to know what they're doing well and what they need to work on. So yeah, and I only know these things because I've asked. Now, if you're a business owner, you'll agree with all these things I'm going to say. And if you're not a business owner, if you're a podiatrist looking for a job, here's some insight. Business owners want a few things: retention and loyalty. So hiring and training is really expensive. It takes a lot of effort and energy to find someone and then train them. So keeping people is a good thing for a team. And it's good for team culture too. You don't want a revolving door of people coming in and out of your team. Business owners want skilled practitioners, so people that actually know what they're doing and provide higher levels of skills. It's great for the patients. And it's also good for the business as well if you can provide higher value treatments financially for the business as well. And good culture. So Peter Drucker's quote here: "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." It's an old saying, but it's very true. Business owners want a good culture of people that want to be there as well. So that's something that is kind of shared. So the answer, in my opinion, is structured new graduate mentorship programs. So think of yourself, if you're a business owner, as you don't have to do anything. You can do whatever you want to do. But if you want to solve some of the problems I just mentioned, structured new graduate mentorship programs are a really important part of it. It's been a big part of our business and its success in the building to what it is today. So I'm a podiatrist. Well, actually, this is old. I was 20 years now that I've been a podiatry business owner, and about 15 years since I've started knowing my business. Look, my experience comes from being in a regional setting, so it's always hard to recruit further you are away from the universities and the big population centres. And it's hard to retain team members because they often move and then want to move back. And we've got a huge demand for services, as most of us do now where we are. And look, I've always had an interest as starting my business to provide like the kind of treatment that you could get in a large capital city to our regional town, because I just really believe that we deserve that where we live. So yeah, that's kind of, if you know who I am and you know my own journey, that's what you know. But I'm sure there's many of us who have their own stories. But that's my experience. That's where I'm coming from. So I haven't just started my business last year. This has been something I've been working on for my career for a couple of decades and business for almost that long. So why does a structured internship work? The mentorship that new grads want, they get, all right? The diverse caseloads they can get as well, because you're specifically involving them in complex work early, so they're exposed to it and then gradually get involved in it. It gives them ability to belong because they're part of something, and really the mentorship involves mentoring them in how to work in a team as well. So there's a lot of that personal development as well that happens with it. And it inherently involves feedback so that new graduates know how they're going because they are being told, what they're doing well and what they need to focus on. And it's not a judgmental thing. It's really just, well, this is where your development needs to focus. Now, for a business owner, you might think, sounds like a lot of work. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but also not being able to grow your team is a lot of work as well because you have to do all the work. So growing a team and investing in it is a great long-term investment. It helps with retention and loyalty because initially it costs a lot of time and effort, but it improves your retention, improves the capacity of your practitioners as well. So here it's skilled practitioners. It makes podiatrists that are able to do more things earlier in their career, which is great, as I said, for patients. It doesn't just rely on you as an experienced podiatrist. You can train the team up to provide the same sort of treatments and services that you provide. And it's great for the business. And it is good for your culture. If you look after your team, then your team can look after the business. Okay. So the biggest mistakes that happen with new graduate mentoring is it doesn't happen by accident. It has to be um, scheduled. It doesn't happen in your spare time when you have a cancellation. It doesn't, you don't fit it in whenever you can. It's part of your identity and your job to be a mentor, absolutely to those people you bring into your team, but even to others who aren't in your team. You need to take time out of your clinical schedule to provide them mentoring. So I'll give some more details in a moment of what that is. And you need a structure to follow to make sure that you cover what's needed to cover for your situation and for what you're wanting to train. So I'd like to introduce this concept of the situational coaching model. Now, what it is, it's a model that you use as competence increases, the support you provide decreases. And that's good and normal and necessary. You can't provide too much support late into the process because they feel stifled and they feel, yeah, sort of like you don't want to be a helicopter parent. But early on, that really is necessary to provide that a lot of oversight to it. So there's four phases in the situational coaching model, and we structure our internship in those four phases. So the four phases are the first 2 weeks. So this I'm really giving away all the secrets here. So if you're still watching, this is it. This is how we do it. So we have the first 2 weeks is the first phase. So it's a short period of time. From 2 weeks to 2 months is the second phase. So that's about 6 week period. So 2 weeks, 6 weeks. From 2 months to 6 months, that's a much bigger period of time. 2 months to 6 months is phase three. And then from 6 months to 2 years, that's even bigger again. So it's just a logarithmic kind of increase in time. But they're the four phases, and they're four very important phases with very important objectives at each stage. So phase one is about culture. Phase two is about systems. Phase three is competence. And phase four is excellence. So to break those down, phase four, for the first few weeks, culture. This is purely about your why. It's about spreading the ideas and the values of how you work as a team. So this is literally, I mean, a new graduate will come in 2 weeks. They've only got one job to do. Get in and understand the culture of your business. What are your values? How do you make decisions about things? How do you treat each other? How do you treat your patients? How do you treat your referrers? What is really important and what isn't important? Now, you might think, oh, it's take 2 weeks. Well, it actually takes a lot longer than that, but 2 weeks of just focusing on that really is really, really important. So our values in our team are really important to us. And if any business owner knows this, that the values they guide all our decision making. So if you call our front desk tomorrow and ask, everyone will understand our five values. They could just rattle them off. Bang, 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 bang. So this phase is what we call the sponge phase. Really, you're just there to soak everything in. So 2 weeks of that. Really, really, really important phase one. Okay, so phase two is all about systems. So this is about how you do everything. So from 2 weeks to 2 months, they understand your standard operating procedures. You know, how do bookings happen at the front desk? How do orthotics happen? How does it, where's your lab? How do you make them? How do you dispense them? What's your systems with that? How do you use all the clinical gadgets? How do you push the buttons and, you know, do this treatment, do that treatment? How does the Swift work? All this kind of thing. So there's a lot of practical training happening in this, and a lot of it happens in a clinical context. So there'll be a lot of observing. I've said here a 10-minute walkthrough of your clinic's not enough. You can't just walk through and say, oh, that's where all the stuff is. It's part of that first couple of months. So what that would look like for a new graduate podiatrist would be 10 hours of non-complex patients that they would take on. Now, usually that is general nail care patients or diabetic foot checks or just simple things that they know how to do because they've been doing it at university. Get them started making some cash for the business. But the other 28 hours of the week, if you're doing a standard 38, 40-hour week, is observing, shadowing, and assisting clinically to just to use all the stuff and to do things. So it's a real settling phase where your new grad gets familiar, gets that muscle memory of how to use all the stuff and how the clinic works. And that really is a good 2 months of that. And also reinforcing the values that were learned in the first couple of weeks, seeing them in practice. Now, would they be seeing patients on their own? Yeah, some really easy stuff. But the complex stuff, not yet. They're still watching you, seeing new patients or existing patients with MSK cases or surgical things or, I don't know, more complex dermo, whatever. Now, phase 3 is where you get the return on all that investment because from the 2 month to the 6 month mark, this is when you are incrementally exposing them to more complex cases with comprehensive support to do that. So that's about 15 hours of just general care, 15 hours of new patients. That's 30 hours, and about 8 hours of structured mentoring and clinical education. And you might think, where am I going to get 8 hours a day, 8 hours, sorry, a week to provide this? I don't know, but if you're a business owner that can't afford to have 8 hours a week to mentor a new graduate for 4 months, you need to do it more than anyone else because your business needs to change. You need to think about your business in a different way. That may seem a bit judgmental, and I'm not trying to be unkind to you. I know that you're working 50 hours a week. I get that. But unless you make a change and invest in your team, nothing's going to change. Now, you might think, well, that's a big investment. Yes, it is. It absolutely is. But it's your business, and it's really up to you. If you want to see this progression and develop your team, you need to invest that time into them. So what does this mean? Structured mentoring. It includes reviewing all new cases that person sees, discuss the progress of existing patients. It involves clinical education, so it may be actually specifically training them up on certain conditions or processes. It includes soft skills as well, so a lot of communication stuff and education theory and practice. So we've got a lot of content that we use for this, a lot of role plays. So I'll be the patient and I'll present I'll communicate the way that a lot of patients will communicate and help them to interviewing styles and that sort of thing. For us, it involves actual audio recordings of consults that we then sit down together and review. So I'll sit down with the new grad and we will actually listen to their consult and then just help them on a framework that we use to sort of an ideal process. Then we sort of benchmark it to that. So, well, how'd you go with this part and this part and this part and this part? And it allows specific focus and improvement of skills. That's the whole point of it. It really is about building confidence and filling gaps in understanding. And your new graduate, if you're helping them, if you're giving them this proper mentorship, you'll notice their tires really get pumped at this stage because they really start to become confident with the majority of the presentations that they start seeing. And they're still be asking for help, obviously, but you're there to check in on them and you provide that in a really, really important way. So this is probably where you're actually putting in the most effort to their mentoring and training process. Now, it seems like a long time, but it's from 2 months to 6 months. That time goes very quickly, and you will see how well they develop in that time. Now, phase 4 is that long, it's about an 18-month period from 6 months to 2 years. And to me, this is about excellence. It's about consolidating the knowledge and really enjoying the craft. So that from a practical point of view, the diary is open for all patients to that person, to that new graduate, as appropriate to their interests and skills. So some might say, look, I don't want to do that kind of stuff, or I don't want to do nail surgeries. Well, we all do, and I make sure that everyone learns that. But in your clinic, you might say, okay, you don't have to do that. But whatever their interest is and what their scope is, that's what they'll do. Now, structured mentoring includes weekly one-on-one case conferencing with complex cases as identified by that new grad. So they'll say, yeah, I want to talk about these 2 or 3 cases. a weekly presentation of all new cases in the full clinical team meeting. So that basically means the whole team gets together and they all share the new patients that they saw. There's so much gold in what you do every day. So just sharing that amongst each other is really, really valuable. And the CPD is supported following interest areas. So it's not a time to be sending people off to do courses really in that first year or even 2 years. Consolidating what they already know is probably the priority, in my opinion. So there's not a lot of investment financially in CPD. It's more investment of time and effort. I would call this sort of the reaching cruising altitude, where they're cruising along, feeling quite confident and really enjoying being able to help people. And the business gets a return on the investment here. So the first 6 months, if you break even on their wage, you're doing pretty good. But from 6 months to 2 years, you get the benefit back as a business owner. Now, look, if you're looking for a job, you probably are not likely to find someone who has such a well-developed new graduate mentoring thing in place. But the thing is, you can do it yourself. So I've developed this here. It's a PDF. If you want it, send me an email, phil@pioneerpodiatry.com.au. Just send me an email and I'll send you just this PDF where you can just screenshot it here. It's got the 4 phases in just a one A4 sized sheet. And it helps you to just determine what you want. And if you give this to your employer and say, look, can I have help? Because I want you to mentor me. You say that's the employer, I want you to mentor me. What can you offer me? How can we structure this mentorship over these 4 phases? And you can even share this video with him or her if you'd like. And I'm more than happy to talk to anyone about it because I'm passionate about this, and I really do believe that it's a responsibility of those more experienced clinicians to do this. So yeah. So if you're a new or recent graduate, what if you don't have a mentor? As I said, you do it yourself. Now we have a new graduate we have a position open for next year. So definitely let me know if you're interested in that. Otherwise, yeah, if you just want more information on how to do your own internship process, you want to do it yourself, that's fine as well. Just let me know and I can send through that PDF or just screenshot it from before. All right. Well, that's essentially it. So yeah, hopefully that's been useful. I know it's a really long video, but yeah, if it's been helpful, yeah, just share it with anyone else that you think might find it helpful as well. Okay, bye.